One of the biggest mistakes that I see my clients and my students making is that they create incredible content. So whether that's a blog post, a podcast episode, a YouTube video, they're really working hard on making something that's super valuable. But then once they publish it, they don't necessarily think about what Google looks at when they're looking at that information. So today what I'm going to walk you through is how to write an SEO title, which is different than a headline, that will actually get people to want to click on it and make Google want to show it off. So what specifically is the SEO title if it's not just the headline? The SEO title isn't something that shows up anywhere on your blog post. It's actually the blue text that shows up in the search engine. So if you're looking at Google or Bing or Yahoo and you see the blue text that is the title of the post, that is your SEO title. If you're on WordPress, you're going to need to use a plugin like Yoast or All-in-One SEO to set up what that SEO title is. Or if you're on Squarespace or Shopify or Wix, you're going to go into the SEO settings on your blog post. But the point is that we want to create a specific piece of information that will just go to Google and the search engines, so that way we tell Google what that post is about. So here are my 4 tips for making sure that you're writing SEO titles that Google loves and people actually want to read. Number 1, be concise. Some of us like to write these super long SEO titles that have so much information in them, but Google will cut you off at right around 67 characters. So we want to make sure that we get as much information as we can into those 67 characters. We don't want to see that ... at the end of it and not actually tell people what that blog post is about. Number 2, we want to be clear. Google is run by robots. It doesn't understand being clever and it doesn't understand metaphors. So let's say you're writing a blog post about whether you want to DIY a website or hire a web designer. If you write a blog post that's called, or an SEO title for your blog post called "Web Design is like a butterfly," and you use this whole long metaphor about how when you DIY your website, you're like a chrysalis, but when you hire a web designer, you get to escape and become a beautiful butterfly. Great metaphor, not so great for Google because it will think that that's a post about butterflies, not about websites. Number 3, you want to make your choice clear. So if you are writing a post comparing 2 different options, don't just say, should I DIY my website or hire a web designer? Make a choice. Be a leader. Say, here's the 10 steps to DIY your website instead of hiring a web designer. Or here are 5 reasons you should hire a web designer so that you can go do your work and spend more time with your kids. We want to set an agenda. We want to tell people what's interesting about it. If they're going to Google and saying, should I DIY or hire a web designer? They don't need you to ask the same question to them. They're looking for answers. So let them know what to expect when they actually get to your post. And number 4, be compelling. Please don't just write what your keyword is or what your topic is, but find a way to make it interesting. Often I'll cue people to say, hire a web designer so that you don't have to learn WordPress, or DIY your website so that you don't have to pay a web designer. What's the benefit of this? Or what's the pain that people are feeling? What's some emotion that you can bring into this that people can connect with? It doesn't just need to be a cold, hard, this is about topic X, but bring something interesting into it. You can even bring in some of your personality and say, hire a web designer so your website doesn't look like hot garbage, right? If you want to be playful, be playful. It's okay, as long as you're within that 67 characters and you make it clear to Google what you're talking about. So those are the 4 tips to write an SEO title that Google loves and that people actually want to click on. You need to be concise, you need to be clear, you need to make a choice, and you need to be compelling. If you like this video and you want more like this, or if you have questions about your SEO titles, leave them below in the comments. If you found this helpful, be sure to like it. And if you want more tips like this to help your content get found in Google search results and use SEO to bring more leads and subscribers into your business, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back next week with more tips.